30 seconds to on air.
One Life is a remarkable, thought-provoking and deeply emotional new movie coming to cinemas this January.
Now, an extraordinary story about a young man who many years ago visited Prague.
A true story of one man who risked everything to save the lives of others.
Do you ever think about the children and what happened to them?
I bet you got some stories.
That's really not about me.
It is just of humanitarian gold, that.
It was a moment where certain people and events came together.
We are working to evacuate these children by train to safety in Britain.
I was watching this movie and I thought, there's an epic quality in doing paperwork. You made that feel deeply heroic.
He signed about, they think, for 2 days. He was ambidextrous. 3,000 visas.
He's double signing.
Why are you doing this, Mr. Winton?
Because I may be able to do something about it. I must.
I wanted to learn more about the extraordinary challenge Nicholas Winton, his colleagues and family undertook.
Nicky, you must know we cannot save them all. You have to forgive yourself that.
So, I spoke to the actors who helped depict the story of One Life.
I was thinking about it in a way as I was adorning myself today, that in a way, arrows, direction, ancestry, and if you listen to where you've come from, they can give you the direction if you're wondering like, oh, what do I do next?
That's interesting. So is history destiny?
No, but you can choose, you can carry it. I do have a possibly romantic idea that we carry our forebears inside. So we can carry whatever they've done forward. Because let's face it, a life is short. One life is. Drop the title of the film.
Nailed it. What a pro. You should do this more often. Because I feel like that as well. Very much so. My family history is integral to me. We're quite Polynesian enough and we can name ancestors back. We're kind of weird like that. But then this film, and this is a thing for you because this is your personal history, isn't it? With the idea of refugees coming to this country, working, Nazis. So there is a connection.
There was a massive connection. I did a documentary, which is probably one of the best things I've done, frankly.
What? Yeah, Harry Potter, all those other things.
Yeah, Fight Club, whatever. Most of Tim Burton's work. And it was called My Grandparents' War. So basically, I went in the footsteps of my grandparents and got to know what they did, which was really interesting because it was as a peer. We never sort of get to know. I realised that I was the same age as Violet when I filmed it. So I was 53 when she was doing the Second World War. And I was going, so this is what, would I have done this? Seeing everything from that perspective.
Yeah, rather than seeing them as the very, very old people you met when you were kids.
You always think as young, as old people, it's a different country, it's foreign, you'll never get there, there's nothing to relate to. So I got to know them almost as friends. And then I didn't realise, I knew the sketch of one of my maternal grandfather, who was a Spanish Czech diplomat.
Yeah, we need to get into this because it's important.
That's the big one.
Yeah, so
but
that's maternal grandfather.
Yeah, and but Violet BC also sponsored, which also came up in One Life, a Jewish lady family from Prague and got them over.
This is your paternal, so you got two, okay, this is your
so
paternal
both
grandma.
sides. So both sides, I realised that basically we are a visa family. I mean, we gave so many visas and helped so many Jewish people in the Second World War over. My Spanish one, he did this, it was a sort of myth in the family that I found out more factually in the documentary, that on, I think it was, are you really precise? June 17th, let's just say it was.
Day before the Battle of
1940.
Waterloo, fine.
Yeah, but 1940.
Oh, 1940, okay, so,
well, I think.
so the Germans are overrun.
Yeah, but Bordeaux, so he was a diplomat and the embassy was being stormed by people wanting to get out very, very quick. he was told, don't open the doors. He opened the doors.
And okay, so he's a Spanish diplomat.
Yeah.
In France. Germans are coming. He opens the doors.
Yeah, and he signed about, they think for 2 days, he was ambidextrous, which was handy, about 3,000 visas.
He's double signing.
He's
both
double signing.
hands.
It was clever that it was good that he was double signing.
And he's just handing out visas, Spanish visas.
They were transit visas to get through Spain. He thought, there's a loophole. They could get through Spain, get to Portugal and out. So in the documentary, I met somebody who showed me my grandfather's signature.
He is Spain's Schindler. He saved thousands of lives.
He saved a lot of people.
And is there an alumni group for that? Like, is there the same, like in this movie where you see the people that, you know, Winton's descendants, they all call themselves, is there a group of, have you ever tried to bring that group together?
My uncle has a bit, and I think he has. And then what was really moving was that in the documentary, they tracked down the daughter of somebody who had been brought over, who then went off and started UNICEF.
What?
So you go like, if he hadn't been saved, UNICEF wouldn't have.
One life.
It is.
Every life
and it's
matters,
this
yeah.
sort of the impact of humanity, in a way. One humanitarian act can then create many more.
An extraordinary story has come to light about a young man who many years ago visited Prague. And what he found there was a terrible situation. Thousands of refugees stranded, living in desperate conditions and at the mercy of Hitler's imminent invasion. This young man, whose name was Nicholas Winton, decided that something had to be done. And so he managed to rescue 669 children. Here is Vera Diamantova, now Vera Gissing. We found her name on his list, and Vera is here with us tonight. Hello, Vera.
Hello.
Now, I should tell you that you are, in fact, sitting next to Mr. Nicholas Winton.
Hello. Hello. Thank you.
Being Johnny's mum, being Hopkins' mum, Babby, the person I was playing, she was such a force. She was an amazing woman. And I think within the story, I did think this is an unusual relationship. A really dynamic mother-son relationship. You don't often have teams of people who really work well together. You can get the archetypal Jewish mum who's like making sure they're fed and they smother the son, but they were a really good team. And,
they're a partnership, and also he doesn't have mother issues. He's not like, I just want to make mummy. So yeah, you're not.
It's not at all about the mother. He knows that she's the one who's going to help it.
She's just a really.
She's the buddy, and she's going to be efficient, and she's also going to get things done.
And then there's the scene that is so powerful because, as another layer of complexity, is that she herself came to Britain, right? And then you have that unbelievable speech where you talk to the civil servant and you say, I've come to know that I'm British and I've embraced Britishness and I've come to understand this country as the following.
Yeah.
And you give this really rather beautiful sort of celebration of Britain.
Well, I was sort of pointing out to him that I came here and I was celebrating the British ideals. I think she's also flattering him, of kindness and decency and respect for other people. And pointing out to him that he is in a position of power. All he has to do is take responsibility.
Applications are dealt with in turn. The process takes time.
We don't have time. The German army could cross the border any day.
Mr. Ledbetter, these are your children, yes?
They are.
Our families, just like this. Just like yours. Living in conditions you cannot imagine. The threat of war hangs over them. What they have done for you is to stand against Nazi expansionism. All they ask in return is a temporary refuge for their children from whatever horror is yet to come. Isn't that the least this country should offer?
You're formidable.
Well, I basically became my grandmother, my great-grandmother. In fact, both of them.
Well, no, yes, let's go on to the other one.
Both of them, because also I am literally, because I come from an Austrian Jewish background on one side and very British on the other. So my great-granny, when I started, because she was Austrian, so I wasn't quite German. Babette was German, She came to England in 1908 or 7. She'd lived through a First World War being German. You have to be strong to be able to do that. They were called Wertheim until 37, 38.
They changed their name,
Thought we can't just go through another war with a German name. But they were assimilated. And they were also Jewish, but they didn't identify so much as Jewish. Not because they were ashamed, but they were desperate to fit in. You know, great granny came through. As soon as I did the accent, my great grandmother, my Auntie Lily, Auntie Paul, they're basically all of them. They popped up.
Well, and that's why you've got the arrow, because they were.
They're again, you better do it. Yeah.
So what happens when you play a part where you definitely hope that your ancestors were not like that? Does that require acting skill?
Yeah, you're always channeling somebody. No, I'm definitely not. No, I'm definitely not doing everything for my family. No, I try and do something. It's always chemistry. It's like meeting someone. You go like, okay, I'm going to get on with you, or I'm going to understand you. And for me, anyway, the whole thing was the story. And why does Nicholas Winton? What was it? What made him do what he did? And of course, I thought, well, I am the mother. Obviously, I'm really responsible for a lot of, why was this man capable of what he did? I think that was kind of my cog. It was like, okay, I'm the mother. There's no father, quite interestingly. And you go like, what makes this man a hero? Why aren't there millions of Nicholas Wintons?
But you also had that thing that, as a parent, is very relatable, which is he says, well, you made me like this, Mum. I'm going on for this mad, hopeless journey to try and rescue children from the Nazis.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right. And then he goes, well, what did you expect when you're this formidable person? You raised me like this. And I feel like that when my daughter goes and like jumps off a cliff, I'm like, I made her try and be outdoors and exciting, and now she's taking it away, and I'm like, well, actually, don't do that much. And I thought that was interesting.
No, the vulnerability of being a parent, no one knows it until you have it. So it's like having your heart ripped out and just walking around. And we can't. It's okay if we jump off a cliff.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
I mean, you know, parachute or whatever you whatever you do for fun. But it is. Yeah, she's caught. She's so proud of what he's doing, but at the same time, she's terrified because he's going into the eye of the storm, and he's Jewish.
We cannot save them all. You have to forgive yourself that.
Hello.
I'm sorry, I haven't got anything. Oh, wait. Hold on a moment. Chocolate.
There we go.
Pane, prosím, dajte mi
Yes, of course.
čokoládu.
You'd like some as well. There we go. Oh, let's see how far it'll go. Oh, crikey. It's only a tiny bit. A little bit for you.
Děkuji.
A little bit for you.
Děkuji.
That's it. That's the last of it. There you go.
You got to depict Anthony Hopkins, so one of the greatest actors of all time. And I heard a really cool thing that he filmed all his bits, and you sort of watched. Were you literally watching him on set?
I was watching him whenever I was allowed on set. I'd go and watch him, and then I had all his scenes. James, the director, brilliantly gave them to me or they were on the cloud or whatever, and I could watch them on the way into work when we were doing our stuff in Prague. So I could just keep a sense of him, because even as an old man, there's the That's Life clip, and there's various little interviews when he's very old, but there's not much footage of him, and there's photographs and things like that. So actually, for our story to work, you had to believe that Anthony and I were the same person, and because the film cuts back and forth rather than going from one to the other, it's, you know, you're constantly kind of going, is it, you know, in your imagination. So I really wanted to help that land by just keeping a sense of Tony.
So you've got two people you're basically trying to channel, right? You've got the original, that's Nicholas Winton, and then you've got the guy who, that's quite complicated.
Yeah, I've done it once before, playing Einstein, sharing the role with Geoffrey Rush, and I was glad I'd had that experience. Also directed by James, one of the episodes. So the last time I'd seen James, our director, was also on a cold train station in Prague, in the set, you know, with the 1930s set, fleeing the Nazis. That's what he does.
That's what I can do.
So yeah, it's an interesting process, but I think you know, playing a real person, in the end, it has to stop being a kind of an impression or a picture that you're kind of constantly thinking of in your mind's eye. You eventually have to just like become a real person. And Anthony and I are both looking and thinking about Nicky and knowing the way he behaved more than specific mannerisms, and that kind of shrugging off praise and stuff like that, which we were both able to kind of bring into it, and he does it so well. So yeah.
Did you have to have the world's hardest conversation with Anthony Hopkins going, I think we should play a little bit more like this? But it's like, look, you take the lead, I'll sort of play on the...
Listen, Tony.
Yeah.
You
gave him a lot of notes, didn't you?
Yeah.
He wishes.
I started, sir. I have to finish it.
At the mercy of imminent invasion.
We cannot let these people down.
It is incredible what you achieved.
We're doing as much as we can.
You have a lot of faith in ordinary people.
Because I'm an ordinary person.
I was watching this movie and I thought, there's an epic quality in like doing paperwork. You made that feel deeply heroic, and like just keeping files and all the paper you were handling in that movie. Is that something that came across? That's how, as an audience member, it felt like.
I mean, there was a lot. You were very good in the office scenes, like rifling through drawers, and I mean, I found that quite hard. That's when you can feel the edge of the set in a way, because if you're holding a child's hand and taking them away from their parents, that's one thing. But if you're like, okay, now you're calling, you know, the head of the communist delegation, and you have to try and persuade them to give the list or something. And there's something that in a moment you just have to kind of imagine that you know, or you're looking for a piece of paper or something. It's that requires a bit of, you know, real acting.
And I think that, you know, it was like the World War II was the war of paperwork, wasn't it? You know, it was the conflict where everything was recorded, and like obviously that has particular resonance for the Holocaust. And like, so I think part of the reason that Doreen perhaps felt like it was an impossible mission to take on was because you get buried under that weight of bureaucracy, you know, and why the trajectory the film takes, Nicholas was able to come in and say, you know, we cannot just look at the paperwork, we cannot just see that as the obstacle, we have to have that kind of human connection and maintain that. And it
was like many turning points in history, it was a moment where certain people and events came together and a need for certain skills, and it was this tiny group of people, and Nicky came in and said, you know, he's a stockbroker, he's like, you know, piles of piece of paper with numbers on them, you know, he can do that.
What should we feel after we leave these films? I feel like I'm a total failure in life and I should be doing more to deal with the problems I see in the world. Well, how did you guys feel, because you're so close to that story, and how do you want us to feel when we've seen it?
Yeah, I mean, similarly, you know, I have had the opportunity to play real characters who've done sort of substantial things with their life, but I don't think anything like, you know, somebody like Doreen Warriner who you know, and Nicky who truly, you know, were able to demonstrate to other human beings that you can risk your life for the benefit of other people and change the course of history and give all human beings something to sort of hope for and dream about. And then I have to play that part and go home and think, I have dedicated my life to something completely potentially meaningless. Yeah, it's hard, but also, you know, it's an incredible privilege to get to depict these people and to celebrate their achievement.
In my search for why did he do it, was that he believed very differently. He said there's passive goodness. We can all be role models. We can always practice a good life. And then there's active goodness. And if there's something that you can do to save and alleviate somebody, whatever they are, whatever creed they are, their suffering, then you must do it.
Save one life, save the world.
Forgive me, but how many children are we speaking about?
Is there anyone in the audience tonight who owes their life to Nicholas Winton?